Jim, where are we today on this fine November day?
Well, one place we're not is in Florida, I can tell
No.
you that, because we're not used to this weather, and it's kind of turned fairly fast here for us.
But if Kevin swings the camera around, he can see that there's a palm tree and a cactus over there.
Yes, it still stands a chance here warming up. I said, but we're not quite that far south. But no, I had a little bit of a rumor the other day. I was at the dental office in Galesville, and the lady there, she says to me, she said, if you want to do a little history, she said, you and Nancy are always out on the road, why don't you do a little bit history on Ettrick?
Yes.
I said, well, there's no information. She said, well, what you have to do with Ettrick, she said, you have to go and talk to Bill Krogan.
Okay.
I went and I talked to Bill, and I was surprised. I said, he has compiled a lot of information on Ettrick. Not all of it, don't bet the family farm, but he has a lot of early pictures of Ettrick. And he turned around and he even made a booklet. It's available at the library. You can go and look at it of the early pictures of City Hall has a booklet, I said, with early pictures. City Hall has information. So we're going to talk a little about Ettrick, and I said the early days here in western Wisconsin. And I think maybe we'll start off with this building here kind of right behind us.
So what is this building?
This is all that's left of the Ettrick and Northern Railroad.
This was the depot.
You
Right,
betcha.
yep,
This was the depot. I said it's the last, I think, remaining building here from the railroad.
And it was probably built around what, 1918?
Someplace in there, 16 to 18, yes.
Yeah.
Ettrick was dealt kind of two blows in its lifetime, let's say.
Yeah.
First off, I said when the railroad came into Trempealeau and into Blair, neither one wanted to come to Ettrick. There was a little bit of a spur put off from Trempealeau up into Galesville, but they didn't want to come to Ettrick. So Ettrick was left without a railroad. Well, they decided as a community, they pitched their money together, put about $200,000 investment into it, and they built their own rail line from Ettrick to Blair.
The infamous Ettrick,
Ettrick
and
Northern Railroad.
Right, it went up
And
to
it
Blair.
did really well for the first few years. But then it became non-profitable, and by, I believe, 1926, something like that,
I think.
she went under.
Yeah.
But luckily, there was a couple people in town here revived it. I said, Maurice Casey, I said, we'll talk about him a little bit here today. And Olin Peterson got together. I said, one ran the car dealership and implement shop, the other one was meat market. They got together, and behind the scenes, they bought the old Ettrick and Northern Railroad out of salvage, brought her back online, and they ran it to 37, and it still went back under in 37. It just wasn't profitable to keep running one train. That was the first kind of a bad straw for Ettrick.
And then the problem with the Ettrick and Northern, it was really bad timing, because right when they were building it was when World War I was going on, and all the prices for things like metal and steel went way up.
They started in 1916 in Blair, and they came through the hill. Well, trains don't go uphill very good.
No.
You have to either go through the hill or remove the hill. And Ettrick got farmers, volunteers, people that had bought stock in the company. They invested time and labor, went in there, and they removed the cut. And the cut is still here. Maybe one day we'll stop there and we'll kind of glance at that.
I've always wanted to see that cut because it was all hand dug.
Yes.
There was nobody out there with a front loader, or a bulldozer.
But I said, we've got the Ettrick depot here, and I said, that's the last building here, but we've got a gentleman coming right now.
Yeah.
He's kind of a historian. He's going to introduce himself.
This is pure serendipity. We did not know he was going to be here.
Standing between us and look important. That's the thing.
Yes.
Oh boy.
So tell us your name.
I'm John Hovre, H-O-V-R-E.
Okay.
Oh, well, I said, we've been talking here about the Ettrick depot, and I said, we've got a little bit of information on the rail line. And I kind of gather you're sort of a buff here on this Ettrick Railroad. You know a little information about it.
Well, I'm a self-proclaimed buff, I guess.
Okay.
Nothing.
Well, we couldn't help but notice when we came up over here, I said there's a railroad irons laying along here, some track.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And tell me first though, What's in the depot now?
Well, right now a guy owns it from Blair, and he just
Oh.
uses it for storage.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's probably snowmobiles in here and stuff,
Okay,
and then up there is
okay.
some lumber. But right now it's just a storage building.
Yeah.
He's got plans of doing some restoration
Well, that
work.
would be great. It'd
Yes.
be a
Like I
shame
said,
to lose
there's
it.
a lot of older history, I said, being lost in Trempealeau County because nobody documents it. Nobody
Yeah.
takes
Right.
care of it. I said, William Krogan here, I said, was lucky enough that he
Oh,
saved
yes.
a lot. He gave
Yeah.
us a lot of information here. We hope every town is trying to do that. If
Right.
Nancy and I can't get the information, we can't do a video. We
Right,
get demand,
right.
oh, do a video of this, do a video of that.
Yeah.
None of it doesn't even talk about. Bad enough, we got to tell you, don't bet the family farm and everything we say.
We might not get this
Right.
100% right.
But
Right.
we only
Right.
can get the information, and we're probably about the last generation yet that still remembers these stories our parents and grandparents had told us. Because once it's gone, one generation misses those tales, them stories, even if they maybe are not all 100% true. I says it's lost forever.
You know,
Yes,
that
it
makes
is.
Jim and I really precious, doesn't it?
It's kind of a collector item.
Yeah.
There's a mural on this
Collectibles.
garage. We've got to go
Yeah,
look at this
let's go
mural.
look at this, John.
Go ahead and talk to us about this mural.
But first, let's look at the metal down
Yeah,
here.
the railroad track.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you said you got this up by Blair?
Yeah, just north of Beach's Corner.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I got that from a friend. They pulled it out of the road when they were doing Highway 53. So yeah, that's original Ettrick and Northern Railroad track.
And it's hard to believe, from the trains running
Wow.
on this thing, they could smash these
Yep.
these rails down.
Well, it's 110 years old besides, so.
And you had to cut it up to get it down here.
I hauled it in one piece and
Okay.
I cut it up
Ah.
here just to handle it, so I can handle
But that's
the
a
pieces.
relatively soft steel.
Well,
It bends when you try to pick it up in a long length.
on a
Yeah.
long run, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not a real
Right.
hardened steel.
Right.
Wow. Well, let's just cut around the corner here and
You
look
have
at
to
this.
breathe a little bit.
Look at this
I just think
mural.
This is just super.
It is. I didn't know this was here. It's great. So, John, can you tell us about the mural? What are we seeing here?
Well, this mural I had painted by a gentleman named Jeff Frederick from Endoro. He hand painted this off of a picture
Wow.
of the original train that stood here.
Yeah.
And it is the actual locomotive. That was number 10. So this is the real deal back in its time.
Because there's the depot.
And here's the depot in the
Yeah.
background. Yep. And this only went to Blair and back.
Yeah.
And it had to back up because there was no turnaround.
Yep. It faced north, or some people say it faced south, but either way, to get one town to the other, they backed up and went
Yeah.
forward. And so
Yeah.
they had a light on each end. And this locomotive was used for freight the whole time, but also it was used eventually as well for passengers.
Oh,
And,
really?
and then the kids, they also went to Blair School from Ettrick to do some schooling, so they took the train.
Wow.
And then they also had like a Model T or a Model A that
transport
run on
bus.
a track that
Yes.
hauled the students.
Yeah.
If the train didn't run at that time.
So
Yeah,
they
Bill's
just
quite
had the one locomotive engine, though.
The one engine
Yeah.
at that time, yeah.
Yeah.
If you look into the history of it, Ettrick and Northern Railroad was the original. It went online in November of 1918.
Yeah.
And they started with it in 1915. It took 3 years to get
Yeah,
things
they were
here.
selling stocks and bonds. And,
Yep.
Yep.
And then Ettrick and Northern went out of business, I think in the 30s. And then another railroad company come online. It was called Ettrick Railway Company.
Yeah, and that was Casey and Peterson.
Sure, yeah.
When she went into salvage the first time when it went under, it was sold for like $9,000 for scrap.
Sure.
And Casey went and he talked to the dealer, and behind the scenes he did some
Yep.
shenanigans there, and he was talking to the right people, and he got a few investors, and he turned around and he renamed it the Ettrick Northern in 1928, retook control of it, and
Yep.
they ran it up to 37,
Right.
and she ended up still going to salvage for $15,000.
Yep.
But I says, I think he had upgraded to a gas engine or a different type of engine.
It was like a little dinky train, like a little short
But
locomotive.
it hauled all the lumber here for Ettrick lumber, hauled cattle out, like you said, passengers.
Yep.
It was the right idea,
Yep.
but I said Ettrick didn't have quite enough business to keep it in,
Right.
in going, But otherwise, the farmers were left with the thing. We had to haul their grain and everything. Had to go to La Crosse,
Yeah.
load it up and haul it by wagon.
Yep.
So the train was the ideal thing, but it just didn't pan out for him. But it's really a
Right.
big part of the history of this little town. I said, and it was the first nail that kind of held Ettrick back from being a bigger city.
Yeah,
Because they didn't
right.
have the train.
Yeah.
And then after a
Right.
while in 47, 48, they changed Highway 53.
Yeah.
Before it used to be Main Street. You could
Right,
look at the
it went right
1938
to
map.
there.
That used to be Highway 11.
Yeah, that's what
Highway
it built.
11. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill called it, I think, was 11.
Yep.
And I says, it was right through Main Street. And then they bypassed it. They went to the other side of town and went on the part of the old
Yeah.
Ettrick rail line.
Yep.
And run over through Blair and Whitehall.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Gilesville, and I never
Okay.
paid much attention
Sure,
to Ettrick. It was
sure.
just a town I went by as I
Sure.
was headed north to Independence to go dancing at Midway.
Midway, there you go. Yep.
Well, when the first settlers came here, when John Cansey came here, 1856, 55, there was nothing. You came with the shirt on your back and a
Yeah.
few tools in your pocket. And
Yeah.
most of the early settlers, they had to live in just a soddy of some type.
Sure.
Many times the families would double up together to live in the same thing until they built a new home, got things organized. Then Casey, I said, after a while in 62, he became the first postmaster. And he turned around and he named the town Ettrick after a forest in Scotland.
Cants
Yes.
did.
It depends. You call it or what you want to call it.
Oh, but the first postman was a Duffy.
But he was the postmaster was Casey.
But he had called it Armagh because that was where
Well,
he was from in Ireland. And then the Scott guy came over and changed it. He changed it to the name of Ettrick, which is a forest in Scotland.
Yes.
I'll take your word for it.
I'd like to give a shout out to Bill Krogan.
Yeah.
He's a real mentor of mine about the train, and he's given me a lot of information. He's quite a historian for the village
I've
of
talked to
Ettrick.
Bill. I've talked to the lady at the library. I didn't ask her name, and I should have. She's more than bend over backwards to help you find information at Ettrick City Hall. Same thing here. The people in Ettrick are just phenomenal for helping us do research here. There's a list when we start talking about Ettrick. I said you cannot realize the businesses this town has
bunch.
had or does have. And Nancy's got a list here.
I've
but
got the list.
Okay.
I don't have a chair, but read some of that list.
Well,
It ain't all of the people, but
there were 2 restaurants, 2 grocery stores, 3 hotels, 4 gas and service stations, the post office, an insurance office, a Ford dealership, 2 implement dealers, 2 feed stores, 2 meat markets, a locker plant, the dentist, doctor, lawyer, the harness and shoe repair shop, 2 barber shops, 2 beauty salons, 2 hardware stores, a number of drugstores, and then they had a tinsmith and a plumber, electrical service and repair shop, lumber yard, blacksmiths, welding shops, pickle factory,
yeah, pickle factory.
newspaper and volunteer fire department, which is right over here.
Now,
Yeah, numerous taverns with pool hall, woolen mill, Firestone tire sales, and then they used to have a free movie night with a makeshift screen
yeah.
downtown.
Back to Cansey's store, yeah.
And then grist mill, flour mill, telephone office, roller skate and dance hall, 3 banks, a cheese plant, creamery, railroad line, and then of course it had churches, school, library, and a golf course. And as you say here, the biggest asset is the friendly people, right?
Yeah.
And what have you got? Some
I've got some
spikes?
original railroad spikes,
Ah,
and I just thought people drop stuff
That
off
is
for me
neat,
all the
yeah.
time.
Look at
They
those.
they
Catfish anchors.
yeah. So people are good enough to drop anything they have of the
The railroad.
railroad memorabilia, whether it be literature they'll leave in my house
Yeah, yeah.
or drop off of anything,
Oh,
a
that's
piece
really
of rail or
cool.
something. But so yes,
Now, do you know where the pickle factory was? I was told it was out here by the fire department.
I think it's where the feed mill is now.
Okay.
The feed mill building was
All
the
right.
pickle station.
Do you remember it?
I do. My
Yeah?
mother sold pickles there.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I remember in the 50s and 60s.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
Well, like I said, when Chancey got here, I said 2 years later his two brothers came here. Alex came
yeah.
and his brother Robert, and they both set up farms right next to the hill, right next to John, and they both are prosperous. I said did well, and then John had a son named James, and James farmed a few years with his dad and with his brother, and he came to downtown 1884, and he bought out a drug business from Ivor Peterson, and in 1885 he built his own business, his own brick building, and that building is still standing today, and we will include that in our video a
Yep.
little later on today. And I think you had a few words about Ivor Peterson too.
Ivor Peterson. Well, I got that he came from Coon Valley, and I think the interesting thing about Ettrick is this was an Irish town and a Norwegian town.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
And I was told that in the early days that the Irish boys and the Norwegian boys liked to mix it up.
I would imagine.
Yeah. So, Ivor Peterson, of course, he was a Norwegian. And he's the one that built the big house in town, too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yep.
Up in the corner,
One they call
Castle House,
call
across
it the
the
castle.
Okay.
We'll look at that a little later on when we do the
Yeah.
church.
1870, Ivor Peterson and Ole Scow came from Coon Valley. And first they came to Frenchville and they had a store there. And then Ivor sold out to Ole and he opened the first store in Ettrick.
Yep. The
And-
building still stands.
And Ivor had been born in Norway and he died in 1914. In 1877, he plotted the village of Ettrick and he opened a flour mill and he also helped establish the woolen mills, the creamery and the bank in Ettrick. So
Sure.
he was a mover and shaker.
Yeah.
You betcha. He did a lot of development.
Yeah.
Another early settler that we could not find a lot of information on in 1869, Peter Huff came here. He's a
Oh.
blacksmith. And a lot
Yeah.
of the pictures here that Bill has given us, I said, have his blacksmith shop. It's even got the bell that was added
Yeah.
in 29 and 30 for the fire department on top of the blacksmith shop. But he was born 1837, died in 1920s. And I says, he had his own store. He opened one in 1869. He started a blacksmith shop here. In 1879, he opened his own store. Well, I suppose it was products that he produced in the blacksmith shop, hooks and hangers and things that
Yeah.
you needed around the farm. Had to have some place to store that equipment. But I said, that building, I said, is gone now. It's underneath the bank. But most of the buildings we look at here today, or in this video, I says, most of them are gone, but some of the history's still here. A lot of the earlier buildings are here. And then there was Maurice
Casey?
Casey. I think you got a little info on Maurice.
I've got that in 1912. Maurice Casey was working for John Kantz as a tinsmith and plumber. And then 2 years later, he started a Ford agency, and that operated for 40 years. And in 1923, Maurice Casey, he received 30 new Fords to sell. But he ended up selling 119 that year. And he was always willing to trade to make a sale, and it said he took in over 3,000 horses on trade toward a car or a truck.
Okay, sounds like a
Yeah.
deal, yeah.
So everybody knows about Casey's, I guess. That he must have been quite the salesman.
Yes.
He even took in a schoolhouse on trade, I read someplace.
Okay.
There
Why
was
not?
a building up the road. We'll go past where it stood. It was still standing here in the late 70s. Casey's Hall stood up here right next to the Aero Shopper.
Yeah.
I says it was used, that building was used for Mass when St. Bridget's burnt down, when the church
Oh.
burnt down in 27. while they were waiting for the new church to get built, they were using the dance hall, and some of the people thought it was kind of scandalous to be using the dance hall for church, but it was better than standing outside, I suppose, when the weather got
It
bad.
worked.
So, well, I think maybe what we'll do is kind of button up in this corner
Yeah.
of town and do a little drive up and
Right.
go out to the cemetery
We'll go
where
look
St.
at some
Bridget's
things.
was.
Sure.
Thanks for your
Well,
information.
thank you.
Thank you, John.
Later.
The right, of course, is the feed mill.
Yeah, this feed mill was started 1929 is when Walter Bourne came to town. And he did move some building here in the 1950s, but I couldn't figure out. I said maybe somebody later will be able to tell us which building he moved into here, into the old feed mill. But I said they were operating this for a number of years. I said Walter bought out Ivor Peterson's mill, which we'll talk about later, which was the first mill built here in the 1870s.
And
Then down here, across the street
Yeah.
here, coming up on the right, it's an empty lot here now, just across the creek. That's where Maurice Casey had his implement dealer shop. It started right here on this empty lot here.
right here on the right.
And it was still standing here in the 1973 picture. It was still standing in this area. But I said it got removed now. Right across the street in 1928, this was where his car dealership
Yeah,
stood.
right here on the left.
But see, that's been all replaced. And here where these three flagpoles are, and one of
Yeah.
them is a little bit crooked. But the reason it's crooked, this used to be Sexy's blacksmith shop. And then it was in 1936, 38, it was put into the city hall, and the community center was built here. Then the Arrow Shopper now is in here now. But the flagpole there, when they dug down for the basis for the flagpole, they hit a whole bunch of shingle of horseshoes and horseshoe nails. So
From the blacksmith shop,
yeah.
huh?
Where this little yellow house is here now,
This one?
this one here is where the Presbyterian church was standing.
On the right?
On the right here.
Oh, okay.
The Lutherans and the Presbyterians, they shared a church. And they bought the old Ettrick schoolhouse, it says, and I really kind of question that, but I'm just telling you what I read. And they shared the church until 1897. And then the Presbyterians bought out the Lutherans half, and the Lutherans had to build themselves for an old, another church, which was built on the other side of town. We'll go back past that a little later on.
So now we're headed kind of southeast out of town.
Yes, we'll go out to the Catholic cemetery, and that's where St. Bridget's started. The St. Bridget's, the Catholics here in Ettrick were not very numerous at first, so they didn't have a lot of money on hand. And the bishop for the diocese here at that time was in Milwaukee. He wasn't in La Crosse like it is now. But the bishop, he spent $20 and he bought 7 acres of land out here for a church and cemetery in 1862. Then in 1863, the people got together and they built a log cabin for a church. And it was a 20 by 30 building. And they had a monthly mass in it. And that building lasted till 1869, and then they built a new church to replace that. Then in 1896, they also had built a rectory. There were extra buildings then for a barn and a stable. Then in 1917, they built another church to replace the second church, and it was even wired for electricity. But lightning hit that thing in 1927, and she burned right to the ground.
So
Then-
where was that in relation?
Right up by those little pine trees up over here.
Over here?
Yes, we'll drive down this road a
Okay,
little bit. It'll
okay.
be on the left. The churches were all on this side of the road, standing here where these pine trees are standing in here.
Okay. But this is the old Catholic cemetery.
Yes, this is St. Bridget's Cemetery.
And it's interesting that Ettrick was kind of an Irish town. It had a
Yeah.
lot of Irish settlers, and a lot of them came from County Roscommon, which is kind of in the middle of Ireland. And there certainly are some Irish names here, like Corcoran and Byrne, Mahoney and Croghan. Those are all Irish names. Casey. So right here in the middle of Trempealeau County, they had a nice little Irish Catholic congregation.
Yeah, it was the only Irish church we had here in the county. When the church burnt in 27, there were, I don't know, I would call them corporals, but there were stones on the side of the church, white decorative stones. And those stones, a lot of them were saved, and they were used here for some grave markers out here that were missing. They were replaced out into here. Then, when this church burnt, then they had Mass over in Casey's implement shop, which we just went past there next to the Arrow Shopper. Mass was upstairs in the dance hall, and people thought it was kind of scandalous to some extent, but they had to have Mass someplace, and they held it there until 1928 when they built the new church, which is downtown. We'll stop and we'll look at that. It's next to the school and library down there. Then over on the other side of the road here, where this trailer home is now, and that, we had the CCC.
Oh, it was on this side of the road.
It was just north of the church. It was on this side of the
Okay.
road.
Wait,
And this was the last CC camp.
You
built
mean
in-
over here, right ahead
Yes,
of us?
it was
Okay.
just on this side.
Yeah.
It was the last CC camp built in Trempealeau County. It was 200 men were working here at the time, and it was closed because of the war years, 1942, and so the war broke out, and then the camps were disbanded, and most of the people that worked in most of those people joined the military to serve their country in the Second World War.
Yeah, they did.
But this was the last area for a CC camp in Trempealeau County. And they did a lot of repair work. We did a video on Cochrane and the CCs earlier. I said people can go back in the files and you can find that one.
But now I heard, and maybe it's not true, that the CCCs are the ones that built like the City Hall, the one that was built in the late 1930s.
It's possible. I'm not going to say. I don't know, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to say. But we can maybe check that out later on in the video here. We'll get another information person maybe to join us, and we'll try again.
Yeah.
He might know the answer. Dick might know.
There used to be a school out here too. That was the Whalen School.
Yeah, there were 4 country schools.
Yeah, but this Whalen one was close to town.
Well, about a mile and a half, because your
Yeah.
closest school, you had the Whalen School, you had the Upper French Creek School, you had Beaches School, and the Frenchville School. There were our 4 closest schools.
Yeah.
The
they
Whalen
had
School was built in
out here,
'64.
too.
Yeah, it was about a mile and a half down the road. And it was like every other schoolhouse, you know, there was no basement. It was a one-room schoolhouse. I thought the interesting thing I read about it, they decided that cross lighting was bad for your
Yeah.
eyes. So they boarded up the windows on one side of the schoolhouse
Yeah.
so the children wouldn't have bad
I
eyes.
remember my mother telling me about that sometime during the 20s, they had decided that all this lighting was wrong and everybody had to change it in the schools.
Yeah, and when the school closed over here in 1948, it was sold then for a private home. And Henry Remus bought it and was
Right.
moved here closer to Ettrick.
Yeah. Yep. I had a classmate, Ruth Ann Remus, that lived there. So, yeah, that was the old Whalen School. There, I love that micro barn. Every time I go by there, I just love it. So now where are we going to go, Jim?
We're going to go up School Street here and we'll
Okay.
stop at St. Bridget's Church there just to get a shot of that church and make a right here in this corner. And
Okay.
we'll This church, like I said, when the old one burnt down in 1927, they had their masses down the street over here behind us at Casey's. They got a hold of this lot, 2 lots over here. They built the church. After a while, they added the rectory to it. There's been an addition put onto the front since 1928. There's even a tunnel, I believe, from the rectory into this back of this church.
So what house was the rectory? This one here?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm not a resident here. Maybe it's behind.
Yeah,
I'm
well.
not sure, but I know we've got
Yes,
some
well,
early.
there's a sign. It says St.
Yeah,
Bridget's
it says rectory right on it. We can't hardly go wrong
I
there,
know, I
right?
guess we're okay there,
We're
aren't
getting
we?
pretty smart, I said. Can't fool me.
Now, right ahead of us is
It's the new school.
and the public library.
The public library school. This was built in '54, been added on to a few times like every other one of our schools. Go straight.
Go straight.
We're going to go straight and zigzag, and we're going to go across to where the Protestants had to build their new church when they split with selling off of their share of
Yeah, you said the
Presbyterian
Lutherans
church.
and the Presbyterians decided to go their separate ways. Okay. All right, now which way, Jim?
Make a right and make a left.
Make a right and a left. Okay.
We'll go past Ivor Peterson's house. You can't get lost in Ettrick.
No,
you can always
well,
ask direction. There's friendly
I guess
people all the
not.
time. Look, these kids there, they'd know where we are. They'd probably laugh at old fools running around here.
They've got a nice big playground for them too. That's nice.
Well, the Wayland School out there was the same thing. They had 2 ball fields, one for the boys, one for the girls.
Wow.
So, I mean, they had a fairly decent.
Look at this house. It's got some kind of like rock art stuff.
Well, see, there's another doggone video. We'll have to come over here and find out the
That's nifty.
reason behind that, get the information.
Okay, so now
We'll make a left and a right. See,
Okay.
you want to go to that brick house or go straight? I guess you can go straight.
Yeah. Because down
Watch the
here,
traffic here because,
down here to the right is the golf course, correct?
yes, the golf course is in there, senior citizen home, and I think it's down this way too, I think.
And my mother used to love to play golf down there. She loved that golf course. Are you a golfer, Jim?
No, I don't play pasture billiards.
Pasture billiards, huh? That's a good one, yeah. Okay, let's see. We want to get by the big house, don't we?
Well, we'll make a right on this corner and we'll
Yep.
be by the big. Ivor Peterson built a house here in 1870. Like I said, he was one
There
of
it
them
is.
makers and breakers in this town.
Yeah.
This was his house, and a lot of people call it the castle. There's a nice
Wow.
little bump out on the far side
It's a
there,
big house.
which really stands out.
Yeah, they called it the castle.
There's, I think, 3-4 homes in this town yet are really Victorian type looking homes yet in this town. But see, there's
There
a
it is.
spire on
Oh.
this side.
See,
Drive
it's
a little
got-
farther.
It's got one of those places that you drove your carriage under
Yeah.
if it was raining and then you
and
got
it's
off.
got that spiral castle in the front there.
Yeah. Well, let's just get a picture of it down here, and then we can come back up here. By
Well, we're going to drive off the end of the block here. We can stop right across the street here if you want and talk a little bit. But this is the church I says that they built when there was a split between the Lutherans
Uh-huh.
and the Presbyterians.
So this was built, what'd you say, in 1920 something?
Yeah, 28,
Okay.
1905, yeah.
But it wasn't because something burned down, right?
No, no.
Because they needed another space. Okay. All right, now we're going to come by and we'll try and get a good shot of the castle here on the left. It is a beautiful big house.
We can
Look at
stop
that.
here just for a little bit of a second. You
Yeah.
notice this nice park over here?
Uh-huh.
Well, this park used to have a school standing here.
Where the
In-
park is.
In
Oh.
1865, the first school teacher came here to Ettrick. This lady was from Trempealeau. Her name was Lucy Pearson, and she was 13 years old. And I guess Laurel Ingalls, we did that. She
Yeah,
was 15.
she was,
Well,
yeah,
she was
pretty.
13, and she taught school, and they suspect it was in a hayloft down by Beaver's Creek. And there were children as old as 10 coming to school, and that was their first time they've ever been to a school in their life. And they were learning. It was down by the old grist mill. We'll look at that in a little while. We'll look at the grist mill. And I said they came here, and they built the second school in Ettrick, and it was right in this park. And it was a 40 by 60 foot building. It was a large building, and it was divided in half. There was 2 rooms in there. And it operated until 1907. And its early map, I said, it still shows the school here below in Ivor Peterson's addition here. He owned this part of town. And it showed where the school stood. In 1907, they built a new school south of the present school back in that direction over there, where we just were. And that school lasted until, I believe it was 1950s they built this here school, 54. But anyhow, they even taught high school classes here in Ettrick. but you only got 2 or 3 years of high school. And then you went either to Guildsville or Blair to get the rest of your education. So Ettrick went through 4 different schools before they finally finished.
And I remember it used to be just Galesville High School. And then in the 50s, I think it was like 1955, 56,
Yeah, 50.
they consolidated with Galesville and it became Gale Ettrick
You
High
betcha.
School. Yeah.
And now with that, I think we're going to go, see, this is probably one of them Victorian type homes. See the
Yep.
tower onto it?
Yeah.
You know. I think now we're going to go where the original mill used to be in the creamery and
And that's down here a ways.
one more block past Ivor Peterson's store. And we'll use some of the pictures we got from Bill Krogan
Yeah,
and
got a
about
pile,
early Main
yeah.
Street and Ettrick here.
Okay, so we're going to turn here.
Now this will be the end of part 1. Go another block. We're ready to go home. We're done.
We're done?
Yeah, that's
Oh, all right.
what I said. That's the end of part 1.